coffee value chain. And joining me is Michael Ochieng, who is a marketing specialist for Connect Coffee right here in Nairobi. Welcome again. And let's continue with the conversation. Now, with the hard economic times that we are experiencing, and you as a player in the value chain of coffee production, how has this affected you?
Tremendously, because first, we always have to accept coffee is viewed as a luxury, right? So at any given point, if someone is going to have any type of difficulty economy-wise, then the luxuries are let go first, or they're compromised. So we're in a situation where the cost of production is constantly getting higher, but then we are also in a fix that we can't always revise the coffee prices, especially for retail, upwards indefinitely, because then you risk losing a lot of your repeat retail customers. So we've had to find solutions to mitigate this economic situation, hoping that it's something that's going to be temporary. But at the end of the day, currently, we are really feeling it as a company, but then also we try to maintain the highest standards of producing coffee, and especially since you also understand that we deal in specialty coffee, this really increases the cost of production per kilo, per ton, however much you look at it, it's getting higher.
All right, and also let's move on to another issue and look at the export market for coffee. Has it reduced? Because I remember COVID came and affected the flights and the export sector. Now, when you look at this, after COVID, of course, we had elections last year, and right now we are trying to just get back into what used to happen before. So has the political season that we had last year affected the export market for coffee?
Well, actually, whatever happens internally thus far does not significantly affect our exports, because it's a totally different value chain, and in spite of the political situations we had, we could say we had relative stability in terms of peace and security. So all the most important factors of value addition and up to exporting could still take place. And interesting that you ask about last year, because last year we had the situation in Brazil and the situation in Ethiopia. One was political, the other one was weather related in Brazil. These actually ensured or limited Brazil and Ethiopia in the amount of coffee they could produce. So we as Kenya, as their direct competition, actually sold a lot of coffee. It was a surge from what we had sold the previous year. Now it's interesting because currently we are right in the middle of our harvest and our coffee season for this year. Now the projections are we may match that, but just as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be quite competitive, because these are things that you can only count as secured once you've exported. Now, some countries will have strategic advantage. For example, if you're exporting coffee to the United States from Colombia, logistically it's going to be easier. If you're exporting coffee to the United States from Brazil, logistically it's going to be easier. So the only reason America is going to import coffee from Kenya is down to preference, for example, right? And then same case with Europe. So what gives us a strategic advantage as a country, like I mentioned before, would be of us looking at it from a quality standpoint. But then from a quality standpoint, it's then interesting to see what produce we have and how we grade it before we can actually determine how much of it we're going to sell and how much we are going to sell it at, to see if it's a successful season compared to the last season. But all signs are indicating that the coffee produce has improved dramatically in quality compared to last year. And then locally also, we do have a lot of good quality coffee. and this is something we as Connect Coffee always try to push for, because charity begins at home. We always encourage the local market to always ask for the best. You know, you go to buy your bag of coffee, it doesn't matter if it's 500 grams or 250 grams. There's always the need to actually ask for the best, because if we can criticize what we have locally, then it would then push for a surge in improved quality. And that's what we are hoping for, so that by the time we are deciding, okay, this is the coffee we're exporting, we know just how competitive it is as a country. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And now to another issue. Let's look at the farmer, the coffee farmer, and how the produce gets to the market and also gets to people like you, Connect Coffee.
Right.
Is there an issue between the farmer getting their produce to the market? Because many a times farmers complain about them not seeing any of the returns from the produce that they get, that they make maybe after a season. So just give us a little bit of perspective about this from where you sit.
Okay, before I even go further, I want to really highlight two critical things that have happened this year. One, there's been a loosening of the bottlenecks that were there for being a coffee dealer. So if you wanted to be a coffee broker, there would be like a list of 20 or 50 requirements that you actually had to meet before you could be allowed to deal in coffee. Now that's very critical, because if you are a farmer that wanted to be your own, represent yourself as a dealer, that would definitely discourage you, because you don't even have the finances in place to handle your own coffee. So that becomes a secondary need to actually go through the licensing, etc. Right? Now that's very important. That has taken place. Another important thing that has taken place is that this is still not has still not come into fruition, but it's in process. The farmers are pushing for, the smallholder farmers, they're pushing for a more significant inclusion in the coffee exchange, Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Now this is going to be a game changer, basically, because if you have the smallholder farmers, which really carry a large percentage of the coffee farmers that we have, being included in the coffee exchange, then they can determine a lot of things, and primarily the pricing and the percentage of it that goes back to them, for them to weigh up the profitability of the venture altogether. You know, like me and you, if we decide we're gonna get into a business, it's always very important to see the projections of the business we have. This is something that the coffee farmers, the smallholders have not had for a long time. So if these two things eventually come into fruition, I think the projection should be bright.
All right, Michael, lastly,
yes,
when you look at the coffee value chain in Kenya, what do you see it moving to in the coming months, in the coming year? What are we looking at in terms of trying to expand this?
I think if I had to use one word, I'd say youth. Yeah. If you bring the youth to it, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, I just forgot the name, but there was a young Kenyan lady that was featured in one of these tech investment program, and she was giving the story of Kenyan coffee and the way she's including women, and then the panel of investors would decide whether or not they'd give her the money to actually venture into coffee. Now, you see, the outlook that she had on the coffee value chain at large was inspired by her youthful ideas, you know, because she has exploited the gap that is there, which is technology, and now everyone can actually get to see that there's more to Kenyan coffee than just the beverage itself. Okay, but that's just one youth. Okay, I am seeing a lot of youthful enterprises that are in the Kenyan market that are actually bringing out other interesting factors about Kenyan coffee and about how Kenyan coffee can also be used to influence societies. There's a Kenyan coffee group that is actually dealing with disabled people, deaf young people, and like they did, dealing with unemployed women. So if we can integrate Kenyan coffee to other social aspects of the Kenyan community, and I think youth are the best people to do it, then the Kenyan coffee will and should grow tremendously.
All right, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us on Business Today.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
All right, there you have it. That is Michael, who is